You're watching iRacing on the Ghostfire Media Network.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Texas Motor Speedway. I'm Josh Lassen. Beside me is Carl Henderson.
Hey, everyone. Gonna have a fun race here tonight. I'm really excited about this. I love mile and a half tracks.
I love driving them. I love watching them. It should be very exciting tonight. We do have a lot of guys that are experts on these mile and a halves, and the last one we went to, we had an absolutely amazing finish, and hopefully we can repeat that, having three people fighting on the last lap.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful that we'll get the kind of battle we had last week. But let's see what happens, and who knows? I mean, I'm actually watching qualifying times here, and currently Hanner's sitting on, but they still actually looks like the front runners have already completed their laps. So Hanner's currently sitting on top. He might have been sandbagging in practice a little bit.
So I would love to show you guys qualifying laps, but I may have had a little goof, a few of them actually, for those that see the titles of these streams tonight. We'll go ahead back and change them, but I also accidentally joined as a driver rather than a spectator, so I don't get to watch other people qualify tonight.
Oh, and we have a new pole sitter. Joe Dinsmore has just moved up. That is something we've talked about, or at least I've talked about a lot. Is the expectation that at some point Joe's going to come out and start really performing at the
Joe
level I
Dinsmore
know
level.
He's capable. Yeah. So here we got front row Joe up here right now. Assuming no one knocks him off pole.
So, one thing that we will make note of, and we actually learned this on the podcast on Friday, is that the reason why we haven't been seeing some of the driving we expected from Joe Dinsmore is we knew he had an issue with his brake pedal. He uses a fancy one that actually uses pressure rather than position to actually gauge where the brake is. Apparently it's been broken for a while, and he just never really noticed it. So we should be seeing a lot more out of Joe Dinsmore in the coming weeks, and that's exciting to see, that we'll have another person that's going to be fighting at the front.
I don't know why a brake pedal would be a problem for him. You want to go fast, don't hit the brakes. That's my philosophy in TNT.
Well, and it shows as you blew past everyone this past week.
And if I'm not blowing past people, I'm wrecking them. So that's how it goes sometimes.
So we can actually bring up the qualifying right now and show that we have Joe Dinsmore in first as we sit, and Josh Hanner in second, Steve Gottschalk in third, and these are the kinds of tracks that he really comes alive on. And William Klingbeil is actually in fourth. That is one of the best qualifying efforts I've seen from him, possibly this year.
Yeah, I agree. In the Cup Series, especially. I mean, he's had some pretty good runs in the Truck Series, but in the Cup Series hasn't had quite the same level of success. But good to see William Klingbeil sitting there in fourth.
So qualifying should be done. So let's go ahead. Well, Hopefully it's done. I'm not sure how
We have
long they
5
gave
seconds.
them. Oh, okay. So we have a little bit of extra time. But right now, as it sits, we'll go a little bit farther down as, there it goes. So let's go ahead and bring up the grid. So starting us off, we have Joe Dinsmore in first and Joshua Hanner to his outside in second, Steve Gottschalk third, William Klingbill fourth, Andrew Burgess fifth, Justin Anderson sixth, Blake Gordon in seventh, and that's an odd place to see both of those gentlemen, and Brandon Bernhardt in eighth, Brian McFerrin in ninth, Don Wartke in 10th.
And then 11th, we have Timothy St. Jean. 12th, Rick Kohler. 13th, Kevin Haas. 14th, Mike Burgess. 15th, Jason Sline. 16th, Ryan Tiffany. 17th, we have Justin T. Rodden. And then in his Cup debut, we have 18th, Josh Laston, who is not racing.
Nope, some of us may have, again, accidentally joined the wrong way. So, again,
Can you go to the next page for me?
I don't think there is a
I
next
think
page.
There should be.
Oh, there is. There's quite a few people that didn't set laps.
Yeah. So in 19th, we have Ross Gage. 20th, John Gordon. 21st, Ed Springer. And around the field in 22nd, we have Randy Pepper.
And that'll actually do it for us. So let's go ahead, get ourselves set up here, and looks like everybody's in the pit lane, and they're just kind of waiting for those of us that screwed up today and may have joined accidentally. So they get to wait the full 2 minutes on my stupidity.
Well, it gives them some time to think and reflect and, determine how they're going to win this race.
Well.
So I want to talk about pit strategy here. We've got, it's a 125 lap race. Estimated fuel mileage here, you're looking at 30 to 35 laps on a tank of fuel. In the draft, it might stretch out a little bit further, but I'm thinking about 30 to 35 is about when you're going to be coming to pits. So going to have several opportunities here for pit stops tonight.
So as with those estimates, we're going to be seeing 3 pit stops at least, and if we have cautions, it's going to turn into, do I pit for the fuel and leave some tires off? And Texas isn't the worst track for tire wear. Nothing like in Atlanta to where they drop off after 5 laps, but the speeds we're going to be at tonight.
Well, it's not as bad as Atlanta. It's not as bad as Las Vegas, but it's should be worse than somewhere like Charlotte. It's a pretty smooth track. So I think you're going to see some more tire fall off here than you did last week.
Well, and the other thing that we need to take note of is this also is a later race than we normally run, so we actually should be seeing the lights kick on for the tail end of this race. And looking at the information, let's just go ahead and throw that up really quickly. It's only 67 degrees out there right now, so these tires are going to be cool for most of the run as pace car peels off, and we are ready to go green.
Yeah, unseasonably cool for Texas.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Texas if it was this cool all the time, as Joe Dinsmore gets a good jump, and Steve Gottschalk is actually getting down below Joshua Hanner, and he's dropping back in the field as we're starting to see Andrew Burgess, and we're taking it 3 wide with Blake Gordon, who has made up a lot of ground to get himself down on that low line, and he's up into 4th right now as Josh Hanner gets down into that low line to stop that charge.
Well, they're taking it 3 wide there. Larry Patrick's going to watch him now and having a heart attack after all his comments on us going 3 wide Thursday night. But Joe looks good here. We see Hanner at the bottom, Gottschalk. And I believe he should get it here.
Oh, as Justin Anderson is looking to get below Blake right now. And he is going to get that position, but Steve Gottschalk is on the outside of Joshua Hanner, and these guys fighting. It's just letting Joe just get out there and run just an amazing race and just keep a good padding as Justin Anderson is following Joshua Hanner, goes up a little bit to block Blake Gordon, gets himself back down, but he has to worry about Andrew Burgess right now.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see Joe pull out like this because, he's someone that's generally very conservative, is going to nurse his tires a bit. So either he knows something that these other guys don't in terms of being able to take care of your tires and lay down fast laps, or he's just pushing a little bit harder right now. But that's the advantage when you're able to get out front like that, clean air. Car's a lot easier to drive.
It definitely is, but we're seeing Joshua Hanner. He's slowly closing down that gap as... This is why I like the tower. We get to see Justin Anderson is trying to get that move done around Steve Gottschalk on the low line, and he should be able to actually get up in front of him coming out of 3 or 2. That's 2.
Well, Hanner right now is laying down lap time consistently faster than Joe, and this is a strategy I've talked about multiple times this season. Like, if you're the leader, you don't have to lay down the fastest laps you're capable of laying down. You can hold back a little bit and try to conserve and see if try to force that guy to pass you. But right now, if I'm just looking at the numbers, Josh Hanner and Justin Anderson, he's making the pass around Hanner here. Justin Anderson's faster as well.
Yeah, he just ran 0.3 faster than Joe Dinsmore, and he is now down below him and has got the pass done going into the front stretch, pushing Joe up onto that high line, and that's going to make it to where Josh Hanner can actually get in front of him.
Well, I was going to say, Joe was being very gentlemanly there, giving his teammate over.
But now Josh Hanner, who's going to try to take first away from Justin Anderson, he's got that low line, and if he can hold Justin Anderson there going into the front stretch, he should be able to complete the pass.
Yeah, that was surprising. I was actually thinking that Justin Anderson was the fastest person on the track. But Josh Hanner now making the move. Oh, they either touched, they got real close.
And that pushed Josh Hanner a little bit lower than he would have wanted, as Blake Gordon is now getting right up into the battle. And these guys can't give us any kind of rest. This battle at the front, these top 6 are just not going away.
Yeah, this here is one of the best battles for the top 6, like for such a large number of people I've seen play all season.
As Steve Gottschalk is going to try to get below Josh Hanner does, so it's just a drag race between those two to get to turn 3, and they get themselves single file. And I think also in that process, we ended up getting Brian McFerrin is now also right up in this battle.
Yeah, when you got guys paddling side by side like that, sure, you might prefer the low line, you might prefer the high line, whatever. But if you got someone side by side, you still can't, even if you're in your preferred line, you can't run your full line that you want to.
I'm going to pop back here just really quickly, as William Klingbill, who started 4th, is now dropping back a little bit, as we're starting to see a little bit of a bunch up, as Mike Burgess is getting below him coming into the front stretch, gets the pass done, and now he has to worry about Kevin Haas, who, of course I say that and he drops back, but we have a spinner. That is Ross Gage.
No caution yet.
No caution yet. He's got quite a ways to before the leaders get up to him. But
caution is out.
Caution is out. Let's go ahead and see what happened there. Just a little bit of the wall coming out of 2, and at those speeds, that's definitely going to send you across the track. Doesn't look like he's got too much damage. That's what it is.
Oh.
That's what brought it out.
Yeah, it's really easy on these 1.5 miles like that to you're just pushing it really hard, and you got to push it as hard as you can, and you just exit the corner, you tag the wall a little bit, and it gets you spun around.
And again, we did bring it up at the top, or we didn't bring it up at the top of the broadcast. We talked about doing it, but some of the news from the drivers on the track is, with how this track is at the current temperatures, 3 and 4 is flat out. 1 and 2 can also be pretty fast, but you're going to burn up that right front.
All right, we'll see if they're going to come down pit road here. They are not giving anything away right now.
Nope.
Here they come.
Everybody's making that dive down. And the question's going to become, as we see Mr. Tim St. Jean staying out. So he will take over as the leader for the time being.
Yeah, that's been his strategy a few times. Go out there and get you some
Let's watch this. Let's watch this battle coming off, as we actually had 3 people stay out. So we're watching everybody. Everybody is getting 4 tires. In all honesty, I think that might be a little bit early, as Justin Anderson is the first one off, and it looks like Steve Gottschalk took advantage of the fact that you can drive through other people's pit stalls to get out in front of Josh Hanner.
Yeah, he
Let's take a quick gander at that.
He ran through a few pit stalls there to get out, but
well, it's gonna be a track position kind of night, so can't say I blame him for taking advantage of what we all know is the case in this sim.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was I think the rule is 3 pit stalls, and he was within that. So no problem with him doing that.
So while we have a few moments and we're pacing, let's go ahead and hear from our sponsor, Guitar Attic. And apparently my button's broken, so let's
The AOLL Racing League began racing in the early 90s with Papyrus's NASCAR Racing and has grown over the decades, now racing on the iRacing platform. The AOLL has 3 divisions: the TNT Series Developmental Division for our beginners and those getting back into racing, the Cup Series for our veterans and Class A licensed drivers, the Sportsman Division racing the Gander outdoor trucks with drivers from the TNT and Cup Series. You can catch all of the AOLL action here on Ghostfire Media.
You need to talk to Hannah.
And we are back. And sorry, pulled up the wrong commercial. Tonight is just not my night.
Yep, you're struggling a little bit. It's because you're about to go on vacation.
I know. Unfortunately, you guys do not get to hear my beautiful voice. You guys are going to have to hear Carl next week, which is unfortunate because I'm really excited to watch these guys run at Nashville Super Speedway because it's a new track, so it's gonna be entertaining.
My goal for next week, doing it by myself, is to drink as much as I can beforehand and see if anything coherent happens. And if anything coherent does come out, it'll be better than a typical week.
I'm gonna ask the question: how is that different from normal?
Yeah, I mean, that's how I get by. That sounds bad. So yeah, we've got getting lines back up here. We've got Timothy St. Jean in first, as we mentioned, stayed out there. The expectation is here he is probably going to drop pretty quickly. I forgot to take a look at the lap times right before they reset here, but I mean, he's going to drop back. But with these kind of pit strategy calls, it's always a question of, did you end up ultimately gaining positions from where you were? And I mean, he's currently up 10 spots from the start of the race. So is Rick Kohler running in second. So, this strategy, we'll have to see if it works out for them. If they fall back behind Tim, then maybe it wasn't a great call.
I'm actually going to throw it out there. We've seen Tim race in all of the series. He knows what he's doing. We did say that the pit window without cautions was 30 to 35 laps. We're only halfway through that, and we've had 4 laps of caution.
Yeah, I think he should be able to stretch it to lap. When you consider the pace laps as well, I think he'd probably take it to lap 36 or so, maybe. But I mean, look, I'm not. Tim, every single race has gotten better every time I've been raced around him, and every time I've called the race with him as pace car pulled in.
As he's leading us back to green as he gets a great jump, but we have Justin Anderson coming from behind him to actually end up. And, that inside line is just dropping Don Warnke. Or is that Rick Kohler?
That's Rick Kohler there.
Yeah, sorry. I saw him. He was one of the ones who stayed out originally, but he came in on a later lap. But Tim is not to be messed with in these situations. He is a great driver. We've seen his progression of getting used to iRacing. He's one of the originals from the AOLL, and it's not that he's lacking talent. He's just had to get comfortable with racing this specific sim.
Blake Gordon and Joe Dinsmore get side by side, racing very aggressively.
And those two next to each other has created a lot of great moments for this lead, and neither of them is going to give up any kind of a position.
Well, you say great moments. I think some might disagree with that assessment of word choice there, but I mean they're fighting for.
As now,
18 is a pick.
And now we're seeing those fresh tires on all these guys who pitted just come to life as Joe and Blake are getting into netcode territory right now, but Blake's got Andrew Burgess right on his bumper. And
we were talking about all the things we've seen Tim do, and good, and I agree with all that. The one thing he hasn't done that I want to see him do, I want to see him get angry at someone and wreck them. Just go out and wreck them.
I don't think that's in his Canadian blood.
I just one time want to see that. Just go out and just wreck somebody, and it can be me if he wants to do that. I will be the sacrificial lamb, and he can.
There's been a few times in the TNT I've been afraid it was going to be me. But I just got out of his way at Bristol because I wasn't going to try to block him because, man, was he fast. But yeah, right now what we are seeing is the difference in tires, and that's ultimately why he's ended up getting himself back into 9th at this point. But if we end up having enough cautions and all of the pit stops aligned, he's going to have the freshest tires at the end.
It's a possibility. But, I mean, with 5 sets of tires tonight, I think, if we go another 5-10 laps or so before caution comes out, you're going to see everybody come back in anyways.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the last thing he wants to have happen is everyone get back on the same pit stop. He wants this thing to stay green.
So I want to jump back up to the front here as we're seeing a 3-horse race at the front with Josh Hanner just slotting in behind Justin Anderson in second. But Steve Gottschalk, he's just waiting for those two to start battling so he can take advantage and get himself up into the lead.
Yeah, those it's tricky with the 1.5 miles because you always have to be thinking about tire strategy and pit strategy. So you can't just go out there and run the absolute fastest, most blistering lap you can. And watching Hanner here from the blimp, and he is gaining on our leader right now. Currently, a bit faster than Justin Anderson. But it's a question of how hard do you want to push it here?
Well, and the lap times are darn clear identical, but Josh Hanner gets below Justin Anderson coming out of 2. So we're going to see who carried the most speed as Josh Hanner does not lose an inch, takes that lead away from him going into the front stretch, but Steve Gottschalk is right there and waiting.
Yeah, I guess the answer to that question, how hard do you want to push it? I guess the answer was all the way.
Yeah, they want to... These guys do not want to end up lower than the lead this early in the race. We're only 25 laps in, and these guys are running pretty hard.
Well, yeah, and I mean, being the leader is also much easier. I mean, you're driving around in there with clean air, your car's not shaking around, and it's doing exactly what you expect it to based on some qualifying. So you absolutely want the lead. It's going to make things easier. But I look at this and I'm like, you know, Hanner, is he burning his tires here doing this? Is Justin just kind of waiting?
One thing he definitely did is open the door for Joe Dinsmore to get himself back up. And he's now past Steve Gottschalk for third. And these two battling has slowed themselves down. And Joe Dinsmore, he's 0.05 of a second faster than these guys. But right now, Josh Hanner needs to probably slot himself back up. Oh, as they touch! As Josh actually looks like he was trying to be a bit of a gentleman and make sure and straighten himself back out. Oh, that's, Ooh. Hold on, let's see if we can get that one back up. Justin saved that beautifully. But that has bunched this pack up to where the top 8 places right now are all together.
Yeah, that is something we don't see out of Hanner a lot. You know, I'm not sure what it's happened there. I'm going back and trying to take a look at the lap before, look at the lines everyone ran, and but that yeah, that's an unfortunate move there. I'm glad Justin was able to keep it straight.
I mean, that was without a doubt a racing incident, but it did seem like Josh Hanner was a little bit higher than he had been running. But right now, Justin Anderson is slotting in behind Blake Gordon, who... Oh, we have a line below Joe Dinsmore. And Blake is trying everything he can to push Steve Gottschalk a little farther forward to get himself up closer to Hanner, so Blake himself can actually end up getting up and running towards Josh Hanner as he drops below Steve Gottschalk. Joe Dinsmore is right behind him. Right behind Joe is Justin Anderson. And there's 3 Steel Horse guys bunched up together and following the eternal villain of Blake Gordon.
Yeah, so I was curious about incidents, and Josh Hanner has 10 total incidents since he's joined Cup Series. So really uncommon for him there, but yeah, it's been fun watching these Steel Horse guys and Blake and Hanner go back and forth and trade off positions. I mean, it's just been back and forth. Like at some point, one of them might have an advantage and take a position and then give it up a few laps later.
Well, and as I say that, Blake is slowly getting support to where Brandon Bernhardt has made his way up after starting 8th. He's running in 6th right now. He may actually be able to take advantage of the scrum in front of him and be able to provide his teammate a little bit of support. As Josh Hanner has cleared 1.3 seconds. Oh, it's just increasing. Now that he's out in that open air, he is just running away.
Yeah, and that goes back to what I was saying. I mean, you get out in open air, clean air, you're able to run your laps like you want to. You can run the line you want to. It makes a big difference.
Well, and with the nature of these intermediates, if you're running in dirty air or you have someone behind you, it's going to throw those laps off because you're going to be letting off the throttle a little bit earlier because you do have a little bit more speed, and there's a good chance that none of these guys, as Joe Dinsmore looks like he may try to throw one down below Blake Gordon, going into 3. But he is slowing up, and are we going to see him try to get his nose below going into 1?
Yeah, I mean, this is another one of those battle we've talked about. It's just been going on forever. And by forever, I mean past this race. But these guys are just going back and forth all night.
As Joe gets the nose below, forces Blake up. Blake loves that low line, but Joe is keeping him from getting down there. But will he be able to get that run coming out of 4? And they are staying side by side. So this is actually going to slow up this pack and let Josh Hanner get a little bit more of a gap, but these guys are not relenting at all.
Well, you say a little bit more of a gap. He is massively putting down a gap right now. And, I mean, if I were his crew chief right now, I'd be telling him to back it down a little bit, try to conserve those tires, but, I can't tell Hanner anything. He knows way more than I do.
Well, he doesn't have his new teammate of Chris Bassini out on track. Apparently he wasn't feeling the greatest today. But looking in Discord, it does... he is actually in Discord with him, so he has a crew chief tonight.
Yeah, that's an awfully nice thing to have, as a crew chief and a spotter when you're running these races.
So let's take a quick look here as... just about everybody is on the same strategy, but Tim St. Jean still has not come in, and also Rick Kohler is still without a pit stop. So these guys should be on the verge of needing to come in. Yeah,
they had to be probably switching off that engine and clutching it when they were on the caution. They have to be right at the verge of having the pit. I can't imagine they can push it much longer.
But right now that we have actually got them into single file, Josh Hanner isn't opening up nearly as much of a gap as he had. It's pretty much stabilized at this point.
Yeah, I mean, and also it could, you're right. Them lining up in the second, third like that is going to, help them cut into the gap a good bit. But I mean, it could also be to a degree that he has slowed down the pace a little bit, but looking at the lap time distance there, and it is still rising.
But it's not nearly to the point it was. Right. He's losing a little bit of time on the front stretch and then opens it back up on the back. But we see Justin Anderson is getting below his teammate of Joe Dinsmore. Joe stays high to let him through. And now he just slots in back. Justin Anderson moves up into third. And right now we actually, in the middle of this scrum, we have Don Warnke who's a lap down.
Yeah, I actually don't remember. He must have gone on the pit road or something, so I didn't see him get past out there. So he must have pitted off cycle. But I want to talk about, this has been a storyline this entire season, people blowing fuel mileage estimates. We're at lap 41, and Tim St. Jean is still out there. And Rick Kohler did come in and pit. He's coming off pit road now, but Tim's still out there. I don't know how he's doing it. He's coming on now.
Yes, but we did have caution laps, and we were saying that the tail end of that was 35.
Well, yeah, so absolutely, caution laps help, but you also have to think first run, you also have pace laps as well, so, and that's not counted towards the lap total. So I expected he was going to be able to stretch it out to 39, maybe 40. I was not expecting him to get to lap 42, 43, so I'm probably going to adjust my fuel estimates up just a little bit, and we're going to say the fuel window is probably like 32 to 37 under green flag conditions.
Well, anyway you slice it, right now we're seeing Joe Dinsmore and Justin Anderson just battling it out right now. And Steve Goschalk has gotten below Justin Anderson, and there's a few people waiting in the wings to where if Justin ends up stuck on that high line, as he manages to slot down in front of Steve Goschalk. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. No.
I was just going to say with fuel strategy here, I'm looking at, currently these guys have been out for 30 laps. As you mentioned, they did have some caution laps earlier, so that after they pitted, so that did help. But I have to be thinking that at least some of the guys that are considering pitting early, probably thinking, they're going to pit early. Next 5 laps or so is probably when they're going to do it.
Honestly, if we look at people's best laps, we're sub 30, and the last lap that everyone has run, and we'll just go ahead and bring this up on the ticker, they're only about a second off of their best lap, and we are 30 laps deep into this run. So there's not going to be all that much of an undercut if they did come in early, so they're probably just going to run the tank dry and then just let the chips fall where they may. But Josh Hanner has opened up a nearly 3.5 second gap as Brandon Bernhardt gets around Justin Anderson to take over 6th.
Yeah, but and going back to what you're saying, I agree with you. Think that tire advantage isn't huge here, but I do think still you're going to see some guys who, you look at Blake Gordon there. I mean, he's almost 3.5 seconds back. If let's say he were to pit 3 laps before Josh Hanner, well, suddenly he's right up there with him. So could you see some guys pit early? I absolutely think that we're going to see some guys pit a little bit early if it fits in their fuel strategy.
Right then, we see Justin Anderson is the first taker off of that front-running group.
I actually wonder if he also had damage from that contact with Hanner. I didn't see any, but it would not surprise me if he did potentially have some damage, because he did seem a little bit off pace compared to where he was. So, perhaps took a fast repair there.
It's possible, but that would actually be a relatively... I would say that's kind of a strange move, because he wasn't exactly slow, but taking that fast repair under those circumstances, but he is currently the first car a lap down in comparison to Joshua Hanner, and he's actually a minute and 4 seconds behind our current leader. But right now, Joe Densmore and Steve Gottschalk they're looking to put a little bit of pressure on Blake Gordon.
Yeah, and the one thing Justin Anderson does not want to see right now is a caution. I mean, sure, he would get back on the lead lap at that point, but then at that point, everyone's going to come pit, and he's going to be at the tail end of the lead lap. Actually, getting the lucky dog, he would actually get the tail end of the longest line.
Yeah, and honestly, I think we've seen one caution, and it wasn't even any kind of contact, and it's the kind of thing that we would see from your other broadcaster, Nick Adams, just kind of grazing a wall. And, I mean, this has been a clean race, but also we've seen some fantastic racing tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we just had Randy Pepper on the pit road, and I think that we're about to see it probably start opening up. We're going to start seeing a lot of guys in the next 2 or 3 laps, I think, start coming down the road.
Well, this will definitely fall into the 3 pit stop plan.
I think our leader is about to come. He is coming.
As he is the first one, and there's enough of a gap between Blake Gordon decides to go ahead and stay out at this point. He'll get a point for the lap led, but let's keep an eye to see if he reacts. It seemed like he might have been far enough back to be able to go in with Hanner.
Well, and Hanner came over the radio to say he was pitting, so he would have had time. He chose to stay out. And one thing I'm going to be watching,
he's definitely diving in, as is Joe Dinsmore. So we are going to see a race off of pit road between these two because there is no space between them.
And our new leader is Brian McFerrin.
That
We have 8 spots.
That is good to see. I've run around him far too much in the truck series, and it's good to see him up here. He is a great racer, and he's making the decision to dive in himself as Jason Swan looks like he will take over the lead.
And going back to what I was saying, Josh Hanner is actually falling behind Justin Anderson here. So that early pit call for Justin Anderson seems to have worked out for him.
But the question will become as we get deeper into this race, will Justin be capable of going on the same number of pits that Joshua Hanner is? Because right now, Justin Anderson is 8 laps deep into his pit strategy, and Josh Hanner has 6 extra laps to the good against him.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would expect Hanner's probably going to retake the lead here, and just shortly. I'm looking at pit road time. Hanner was quite a bit slower on pit road than Blake Gordon. Even though he pitted a lap earlier and was able to gain a little bit extra time on tires, Blake's tightened up that lead or the gap a little bit between him and Josh Hanner.
But he
Not
still
much.
has over 3 seconds between them, and Josh Hanner is only a half a second off of Justin Anderson.
Yeah, I think those times right there, I think are showing back from the leader because I believe Blake is less than 3 seconds back from.
No, Justin Anderson is currently our leader, as Josh Hanner is getting down below Justin Anderson, as we have a lapped car coming into play here with Josh Hanner getting below Justin, getting around him pretty easily to retake the lead.
Yeah, what I was saying is those times over there are showing the time the leader. So, yeah, the
Blake
gap
is
between
at 3 seconds.
Yeah, right, just under. It's not much, but he did shave off a little bit by having a really good.
Right now, Josh Hanner is swinging to that outside, and Justin Anderson is trying to get a little bit of a draft off of Rick Kohler.
Hey, we had a request here, Larry. He's wondering if we could change the map to show car numbers instead of positions.
Yeah, I'm not exactly even sure how that ended up there. Yeah. Our software decided to update again, and yeah, it's kind of a little screwy on me. So I'm going to go ahead and do this real quick here, and I'm just going to get rid of it, because it's actually distracting me. Because of that exact situation to where it was showing positions rather than numbers. So,
yeah, we got Hanner here already pulling out to a big gap over Justin Anderson already. Just quickly pulling away, and a lot of that's due to fresher tires. As you mentioned earlier, it's a 6-lap differential between them on tires. So, making a big difference right now.
As we're seeing Blake Gordon and Steve Gottschalk battling it out for that 3rd position, and both of them are on the same strategy right now, as Steve is right up there, as they have both caught Justin Anderson, and unfortunately it seems like Justin in that early pit stop, the undercut really is going to come back to bite him, as he's dropping to where he's now dropped into 4th with Steve Gottschalk getting in front of him. But these guys are battling it out, and most of the rest of the battles back through the field are a second plus.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's kind of, this happens a lot of times with 3-5 picks at the pit stops. The field kind of tends to stretch out like this.
And right now, I'm looking forward to seeing how this ends up playing out, because right now these guys are the only ones really fighting for position. But it also looks like Brandon Bernhardt. Oh, no, that's Justin Anderson. Yeah, I'm just a little screwy today.
I have a question for you here. I'm going to see if you know the answer. Any idea why Joe Dinsmore is running in 16?
The only thing I can figure is when we went to his pit entry,
I think he was penalized.
I think he might have been coming in a little bit hot. Let's go ahead and see. This was, no, not quite the one I wanted.
That's maybe the second one. I think that's exactly what happened. I think he was penalized there. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell us what the, if there's a penalty, it just says they enter pit road space. So, really unfortunate for Joe there. He was a front runner tonight.
I was going to say, here we go. That was entered as pits. Oh, there's just so many things to click on. The only thing I can figure is that he ended up, and I just cannot find it.
Well, that'll be all right.
It seemed like he came in a little bit hot behind Blake Gordon. And he may have ended up speeding in the pits, and unfortunately, since we're doing this under green flag, he had to come back in to serve the penalty.
Yeah, I'm actually watching it right now, and yeah, he was gaining on Blake Gordon really fast on pit entry. So I think that's exactly what it was, speeding on pit entry there. So, man, I hate to see that for Joe. Had the pole, and hopefully he can get back on the lead lap here and maybe work his way back up through the field.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Once we learned on Friday that it was his brake pedal was an issue for quite a while, and unfortunately this isn't one of the tracks that it's really going to play too much, except for those pit entries. But I will be the first to say, when you're used to your pedal functioning in a specific manner, when you change things around, it's going to mess with you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Especially somewhere where you're heavily braking. Taking a look here, the 70 car, Brandon Bernhardt just passed Justin Anderson. That is another example of taking a look at pit times. Yeah, Brandon actually pitted a little bit later than Hanner. Pitted on the same lap as Blake Gordon. So I mean, Justin's struggling out there a little bit right now with those older tires.
And as we continue to stay green in this situation, we're most likely going to see the exact same things play out, because Justin is, again, 6 laps earlier than everyone. So he may end up having to stick with the strategy he's on, as we're seeing this battle for second coming up on lap traffic with Ross Gage being in front of them. This should get a little bit on the interesting side, as Ross goes high and very high to make sure that he's not going to interfere with this run.
I'm looking here. At Justin pitting earlier than everyone else. He's probably going to have to be pitting here within 10 laps, I would think. Probably around somewhere between 78. 82 or so.
Well,
he'll be needing the cut.
Well, he could end up running the same length as everyone else, because we're seeing with the strategy, we had 39 and 40 laps, even upwards of 42 on a few people.
Well, we have to keep in mind, though, those were some possible figures. It's possible you can stretch it, but I think no later than 85 would be.
But he is 24 deep, and he only ran 33 the previous, and everybody else is under 20 at this point. So, yes, we've seen Justin win on strategy, and this may be one of those situations that he decided that the undercut may be able to work, and unfortunately his team didn't really have the data to show that you're only losing about a second a lap towards the tail end of your run.
It worked for a little while. He moved into the lead. If a caution had come out, that could have worked out in his favor. Although I think at that point they probably would have not been prepared to pit again. But sometimes when you're just kind of running like 5th, 6th, you got to give things like that a shot and see what happens.
Without a doubt, and to be honest, I'm actually really excited to see this as I also see we're starting to see some of those guys that did not pit under caution are making their way into the pit lane right now, to where we see Timothy St. Jean make his pit stop. So we are reaching that window again. And I just want to make one little note as we've been sitting here watching this battle for a second. Coming out of turn 2, it looks like Blake is actually starting to get a little bit loose on the exit of 2.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. I think, the exit of 2 is going to be one of the harder, probably the much harder exit than the exit of 4 here. I haven't run many laps here in the Cup, just based on my limited experience. I think the exit 2 is going to be challenging. And the car is changing as the tires are getting older. The track's changing as it's cooling down. You think it might behave a certain way, but it's not always necessarily going to behave the same way. I would imagine this car is going to be a bit of a handful.
But we see Steve Goschalk getting down on that low line. He may be trying to take advantage of that exit that Blake is making. And not this lap, but he may be able to make that work going into 3. He is down below Blake Gordon. Coming into the front stretch, he's going to be able to hold him up there as Blake takes the very high line, hoping to carry a little momentum, but it looks like Steve has the pass done.
Yeah, that's a great move there by Steve, and really, I mean, I'm not gonna say surprising. Steve is a consistently fast guy, but I really thought that Blake was starting to kind of get a little more comfortable and show some speed, but maybe he just overdrove the car a little bit, or maybe he's just changes to the track are just not working in his favor.
Well, you would think, knowing that Blake is one of those drivers that likes to push the car to the very edge at nearly every moment, you would think that being under the lights here in Texas on the sim, it's unseasonably cool because, God, my experience in Texas is it's 100 degrees until about 10 p.m. But
yeah,
you would think that it would favor his driving style with this cool track, but I think we just may be too close to the end, but he's not going away from Steve Goschalk right now.
No, I mean, he's hanging right there with him. Steve got by him, and then all of a sudden, it's just been like he's just right, not letting him gain another inch.
So, I do want to bring up, just because it's been quite a while since we've even talked about him, Josh Hanner is nearly 5 seconds clear of second place right now.
Well, why would we bother talking about him when he's 5 seconds clear?
I just want to make sure that everybody's getting a little bit of play-by-play because we're focusing on this. And again, there's outside of this battle, just about everybody is over a second. I'm going to pop to the back real quick. As Andrew Burgess has Jason Swan, this is the next closest battle we have on track. And Andrew Burgess is, again, we're 2/3 of a second up, but Jason Swan has actually been closing this down over the past few laps. So as we're reaching the end of these stints, it looks like Jason is the better driver as these tires start to fall off.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of guys. I mean, some guys are going to be good at the beginning of a run, fun,
I'm just going back again as Timothy St. Jean makes the move on Don Warnke and gets himself around. That's going to put Tim back up into 12th. He's only one position back from where he started tonight.
Yeah, well, and you see how fast Tim got around him there. Tim's tires are 11 laps fresher, and that makes a huge difference. Until you get some laps on them, they start to kind of level out. But right now he pitted at lap 72. He's still got some life in those tires.
He does, but as we come back up to the front, Steve Gottschalk is not only starting to place a little bit of a gap between him and Blake Gordon, he's actually cutting into Josh Hanner's lead to where, from the last time we spoke about it, he's taken a quarter of a second out of his lead.
Yeah. He's chipping away there, and that could be right now that Gottschalk is faster. It could be that Hanner is sandbagging a little bit.
I highly doubt that one. We know that, again, Steve is one of the veterans, to where he's going for that long-run speed, because he knows that's where his advantage is going to be.
Oh, and we've got Justin Anderson pitting. I said that Justin Anderson would pit no later than lap 85. Here we are, starting to sweat it a little bit.
Well, thanks for being right.
But hey, I just want to point out, I had estimated a longer fuel window, and we talked to Josh Hanner before the race, and he suggested it was actually shorter. So I adjusted my estimates, and here we are.
Well, and he may have been just feeding us bad information because he likes to mess with us.
Well, from now on, I'm going to get all my fuel estimates from Larry Patrick.
That would require Larry to run.
Larry having computer issues, so hopefully we'll see him back soon.
I have a feeling that's just an excuse.
But yeah, so we got Justin Anderson coming off pit road. So, if we, working off of the previous pit cycle, we should see everybody else coming in within the next 6 laps or so.
And right now, they're at about 5 laps shy of where they were. 5, not 6. But Steve Gottschalk has managed to open up a second gap over Blake Gordon as Steve is letting Rick Kohler get around him, who is on a shorter, he has fresher tires, so just let him go. Don't try to hold him up, because that could cause problems between him and Blake.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to focus on our leader here a little bit. I'm just, I'm going to watch him here because, I think in the, you said 5 laps, probably down to 4 laps now, close to that. We're going to see him pit soon, and I think this next set of pit stops is going to be absolutely crucial. They should be able to make it to the end on fuel from here. So you're going to have to get in there, have a good stop, and get off cleanly. And, the last thing you need is a penalty right now. We saw what happened to Joe earlier. None of these front runners get penalties. You got to be really conservative there.
Well, and the last thing they really need is a caution.
Yeah, I think it depends on who you are. I mean, Steve Gottschalk right now is probably thinking, please give him a caution, because there's not a whole lot you can do to make up 5 seconds. Approaching 5.5 as it keeps ticking up. Not a whole lot you can do to make that up on the track. But I'm sure Josh Hanner's thinking, like, man, I hope this thing stays green instead of the rest of the race, because he's sitting pretty right now.
So I want to call out the mover and shaker of the race at this point, Mr. John Gordon, who is up 10 spots from his starting position.
Sorry to interrupt you here. Steve Gottschalk and Blake Gordon are on pit road.
Oh, they're going to try the undercut. And these two are right there. We know Blake is amazing at getting onto pit road. He is one of the latest breakers to get himself down to speed. So let's go ahead and watch this battle.
And our leader, Josh Hanner, is now coming on pit road as well.
And with him doing that, technically once he passes these guys going through here, he Well, he is not going to make the pass. But Blake wins the battle off of pit road by a considerable margin.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it earlier. Blake's just so freaking good on pit road. It's something we've seen time and time again. That's assuming you didn't get a penalty. I mean, it's possible, but it would be very out of character for him.
That would be unbelievably out of character for him. So right now, with Josh Hanner even coming into the pits, and he's back out, he's still only dropped into third.
Yeah, he's going to drop some more here because I think, actually, I'm looking closer. He's not. I thought he was. I thought there was still some guys up to speed that be able to get around him. No, he's not.
No.
He did lose a little bit of his gap, though.
However, he is nearly... He's 20 seconds. Or no, he's only about a second and a half in front of Blake Gordon right now.
He's actually 2.5 seconds. He's 2.5 seconds ahead of Blake Gordon right now.
Well, in the process of me doing the math and you doing the math, it changed.
Well, I'm not trying to do the math over there. I'm just looking at the other scoring screen.
But right now, our leader, Jason Swan, is out there with a massive gap. And I have to look at it. I got to see the stint lengths here.
It's insane.
Swan...
there he
Swan,
comes. Okay.
He's coming in right now to where he was about on the same strategy. He stayed out 3 laps longer than the other guys the first time around. But he's coming in just on a little bit shorter of or on the same stint as the other guys. So that is going to put Josh Hanner, as he comes around, back up into the lead. Blake with that blistering pit stop he cut a massive amount of time off of Josh Hanner on that pit stop.
And I'm looking at it here, pit lane time, he was about a second and a half faster. So the time going down pit road about a second and a half, so that shaved off some time there. Time in the pit stall, Josh Hanner was a little bit faster. So I think the rest of the time he made up was on entry of pit road and on exit of pit road. Because just being on pit lane is not telling us the whole story right now.
But we also have to figure Blake did have 1 lap out.
That's true.
On those fresh tires, to where that does make up the difference between them. Because
but look, what we're looking at right now is something I can see, based on what we've seen so far. Blake's been gaining a little bit on Josh Hanner. Watching the lap times, Blake's about a half second faster last lap than our leader, and he's coming for him. He should have the time. It's just whether or not is Hanner trying to conserve a little bit. Is Blake driving all out? I really hope to see Blake get up there and see these guys race.
Well, we also have to take into consideration the lap traffic that Blake Gordon just battled through is also part of the reason why Josh Hanner did end up dropping a little bit. But Blake is clear of them, and he is cutting into that gap.
Yeah, I mean, Blake definitely got through the lap traffic more quickly, with less issues. So, yeah, and I'm watching Hanner's pulling away a little bit more now. That's staying stable. But I think we might have a battle for the lead before this thing is said and done.
But if we do stay green, we have seen Josh Hanner does seem to be a bit more conservative on these opening laps, knowing that he's going to save the tires for the later run, and that's probably where he's going to end up winning this. Is Blake is driving the absolute limit on this car to get up to him.
Yeah, look, we know that Blake likes winning, and I know right now he is pushing this thing to the limits right now, trying to find any little bit of speed he can to make up this gap.
he was nearly a tenth faster. As we hit 25 to go, he was a tenth faster than Josh Hanner until they crossed the line, and Hanner makes up that. But
can we take a look at the sector comparison? I'm curious.
Oh, that's what I was just about to bring up, sir. So if we look at it, Josh Hanner was generally about a tenth of a second slower than Blake in those previous laps, but right now we see Josh Hanner was actually faster on the last lap.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there with Blake. I didn't see anything on his car, but suddenly we've got a much larger gap. I'm blind here. Take a look, because I see Blake talking on the radio right now, and actually Hanner is too. So I don't have their audio turned on, unfortunately, but maybe Blake's asking Hanner to do the respectful thing and just slow down and let him catch up.
Well, we had last week in the interviews, Blake did say he could not figure out what Hanner was doing to get all of that speed, as Blake is actually battling with a lapped car who happens to also be his father. As we and Josh Hanner was another half a second faster than Blake, while Blake was battling with that lap traffic.
I'll tell you what, I'm glad that S there went off cleanly, because otherwise I wouldn't have wanted to be there with him for Thanksgiving.
No, that would definitely be something I would not actually know. I would love to be a fly on the wall in that situation. But as we see, Hanner he's just taking off.
Can we do this? Can you compare Blake to Steve Gottschalk now?
Is Gottschalk behind him? Yes, I can. As Steve Gottschalk has actually been running significantly faster laps, as we see him getting down below John Gordon, and he is right there and ready.
Yeah, the reason I asked is I'm starting to think that Blake may have just been, I was about to say pushing it too hard. Look, I don't think you can push it too hard with 20 to go and significantly behind the leader. But yeah, I mean, Blake's falling like a rock right now. We had a second and a half gap earlier, and now we're at 4 seconds, approaching 4.5.
As Steve was nearly a second faster on that lap, and right now, his gap, he is right there as he's going to get below Blake going on the front stretch. As he gets the pass done, as Steve, this is going to turn into another interesting battle, but Blake should have the extra momentum going onto the backstretch as Steve does slot in behind him.
Yeah, he had the momentum for now. Steve is much faster than Blake at this point in the race. I think Steve's going to get around him. You know, it seems inevitable, but who knows?
They just ran. Steve was about 0.2 of a second slower on that last lap.
Well, that's not surprising when he tried to complete it, failed to. So that isn't surprising. I'm really interested to see what happens here, though, on this lap.
I do want to. Oh, as we see Steve blink out a little bit, and that's probably my connection. We aren't going to have any crashes.
Nope. It's happening on mine too. So I think Steve might be having some connection issues.
Yeah, we aren't going to have any crashes this week because I did realize that my main drive was a little full. So do have a replacement coming up, so it's a little bit bigger. Oh, as we actually see John Gordon get loose in the behind him, and that's going to create some interesting.
I don't think it was John Gordon, was it?
It definitely was.
Did he get going again?
Yeah, he caught it like the veteran he is.
Wow, I really thought he hit. He went completely around. So
nope, caught the wall coming out of 2, manages to catch it beautifully, and get himself back up into the line.
Did he spin again after that though? I thought maybe not. Man, what a save! That was incredible.
I'm gonna go back up to our leader, who is currently battling some lap traffic, with Timothy St. Jean pushing Hanner up as both Tim and Ross Gage get around him. And unfortunately for Blake Gordon, that didn't really cut too much into his gap.
Yeah, so I'm looking here at Tim. Tim pitted just now, I think, and Ross Gage did as well. So they're on fresh tires right now. That's why they're flying past our leader.
Yes, they did. So we are starting to see this beautiful graphic kind of create some serious jumbling.
Yeah, I think had that first caution and only caution not come out, I think we could have seen some really interesting pit strategies play out.
But we are currently just at 13 to go, and this battle for second is getting a little bit on the heated side.
Yeah, I really expected Steve Gottschalk to have completed the pass already. I don't know if Blake just had a few bad laps and he's kind of gotten back together. Gottschalk also might just be kind of, waiting. We talked about this before, a veteran like he is, just sort of waiting for a mistake, waiting for Blake, possibly to wear his tires out more. But Blake isn't the type of person to make mistakes. So I think if Gottschalk wants to make this pass, he's going to have to make the pass and not just wait for Blake to make a mistake.
Well,
try saying that 3 times fast.
Yeah, I'm not going to even try it at this point.
But yeah, so I mean, our leader Josh going up to more than a 6-second lead. We've got a battle here for second, but throughout the field, I mean, you got.
I'm actually gonna pop back as we have a little bit of a pack right here with Brian McPherson in 6th. We have Andrew Burgess and William Klingbill just sitting there waiting.
Yeah, I mean that especially if you get 2 guys battling in front of you, you can go back and try to join them, but you can also sit back and kind of see if one of them is going to make a mistake and pounce on it.
And again, I've run around Brian quite a few times. They could be waiting a long time for that.
Yeah. I don't think I've had the privilege of running them yet since I don't run a truck series anymore. But yeah, from what I've seen of him on broadcast, he is a very consistent, clean driver.
I will be the first to say he's one of my favorite people to drive around.
I'm pretty sure that you say that about everyone that isn't me. It feels
yeah, it's
like
just because you're my teammate and I have to drive around you more than I like to.
Well, I think it's just because I didn't pick you to win this week. But we'll leave it at that.
Nah.
Yeah,
but
so
I wanted to pop back, and yeah, Justin Anderson and Brandon Bernhardt are starting to duke it out a little bit as Justin's taking a lower line, coming out of the turns a little bit later than Brandon, but Justin is giving room for one of those recent pits to get around. And I want to come back up to the front because I can't not. These guys, as we are at 8 to go, Steve Gottschalk is just right behind Blake Gordon, getting a little bit lower on the turns. Blake drops down to prevent any kind of a run, but this is going to get heated as we are coming to the checkered flag.
Well, about as heated as you'll get with Steve Gottschalk. I don't. He's not the type of person that's going to go up there and bump, Blake and move him.
But he is side by side. Going into 3, he should be able to get this pass done, get in front of Blake.
Oh, I don't think so. Not this time.
Oh, but he's going to force him up going through the front stretch, which should give Steve a little bit of an advantage going into 1. but Blake is giving him plenty of room to where he can get that extra run once we hit the straights. But Steve, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Blake. I think it's running different lines. I mean, Blake's kind of dropping down pretty early and kind of getting a huge, he's gaining a lot of momentum there on the corner entry, mid corner, but on corner exit, where you would typically expect that outside line to really excel. You see it every time. Like Steve will gain a little bit right on entry, and then Blake just past
Steve
him.
may be able to get up in front of him.
I think he's got it this time.
He does. So Steve Gottschalk has taken over second. And I think this is the difference between Blake running as hard as he did early in the stint and Steve just biding his time.
Well, I mean, true. That could be it. But let's also talk about the fact that Steve qualified better than Blake. I think we a lot of times talk about Blake as if, he's always expected to be the best on the track. And I've fallen into that before. But I mean, Steve qualified better than Blake. He had some speed. It might not just be on the tires. It may just be that Steve is faster than Blake tonight. And that's going to happen sometimes.
Blake did buy a little bit of loyalty with you by sending you some computer parts to make it to where you could actually stream next week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It was desperately needed. Because otherwise, I would have been trying to do a radio broadcast next week since I wouldn't be able to stream the video.
Well, it would work. It would just be a little choppy. But right now, Steve is putting up that gap between him and Blake. I do believe it was just the difference in the tires. As we are at 2 to go, Steve is just running away from Blake right now.
Hey, real quick, let's go back to that battle for 7th again. Or I guess it's actually battle for 6th. But yeah, those guys are still geeking it out. Just, haven't really been going back and forth, but, they're right there together. And, Ross Gage is a lap down, but I think potentially he's on fresher tires. He's right there in front of him. But
right
two
now,
of them, Andrew Burgess and Brian McFerrin, just back and forth.
As we have gone white flag, but it just looks like Brian is running a slightly different line than Andrew, and it's proving to be faster, but as he's coming up to Ross Gage, that could prove to be the difference maker in this situation. But I do want to go back to the front as Joshua Hanner comes out of 4 to take the checkered flag in dominant fashion this week. Nearly 8 seconds of a gap. Let's get ourselves back here as Steve Gottschalk takes second, Blake Gordon in third.
That is unreal right there. I'll be completely honest. I took a look at practice times and didn't really think Hanner would have much for the field. Leaders. Man.
That, it just goes to, it may not be being able to put down the fastest lap. It's being able to hold your speed for as long as you can.
And hey, strong winner pick for you, Larry the Sausage Patrick, on the podcast. Picked Hanner to win, and Hanner proved him right, which I hate when Larry's right.
Because we'll have to hear about it on Friday.
Did you know that he finished third once?
You know what? I think right now Larry would prefer everyone to forget about that, but we will not allow it.
But yeah, as you mentioned, what an incredible run at Josh Hanner here. Let's run through the results here.
So go ahead. No, I will let you.
All right. Finishing first, Joshua Hanner. In second, Steve Gottschalk. Third, Blake Gordon. Fourth, Brandon Burnham. Fifth, Justin Anderson. Sixth, Brian McFerrin. Seventh, Andrew Burgess. Eighth, William Klingbill. Ninth, Kevin Haas. And rounding out our top 10, Jason Swan.
So in 11th, we had John Gordon. 12th, Joe Dinsmore. 13th, Timothy St. Jean. 14th, Don Warnke. 15th, Ross Gage. 16th, Rick Kohler. 17th, Mike Burgess. 18th, Randy Pepper. 19th, Ed Springer. 20th Brian Tiffany, and then the other two didn't actually run. So
Hey,
that
how we
is my...
pull our winner in?
Let's do that. And that was my best finish in the cup so far.
Hey, Hanner, it is Josh and Carl in the booth. Got a copy?
Sir, I got you.
Man, I feel like we are talking to you a lot over, what is it now, the past 7 weeks or whatever it is. You've had, this is your 5th win. That ties you for most wins in the league with Blake Gordon. How's it feel, man?
That's pretty cool. I didn't expect to have this many wins so quick. I mean, Blake's an awesome driver, so to be mentioned in the same sentence as him, that's pretty fucking cool. Sorry for the language, my bad.
Oh, you just broke one of the rules that I got yelled at for a few months ago at this point. Got to keep it PG.
As soon as I said it, I was like, pull it back. My bad.
Yeah, you got to forget that you're not talking to your teammates. You're talking to broadcasters tonight.
Yeah, give me 15 demerits.
You no paycheck this week.
Oh.
So, let's talk a little bit about tonight. Absolute dominant win. I think you ended up winning with almost an 8-second gap. What do you attribute that to?
A lot of it, I think the difference was turn 1 and 2. I had some help from Chris Bassini. He was on the pit box tonight. He gave me some tips on something to try in 1 and 2, and after that first run, it really made a huge difference. So that was it right there. All the thanks go to him.
So you were missing your teammate out on track, but he ultimately was the reason why you won tonight?
Oh yeah, he was a big help on the strategy, and he told me how to run 1 and 2. The first run I wasn't running it correct. Second run I tried what he said, and that was the big difference.
So I've got to ask you, pretty early in the race, there was some contact between you and Justin Anderson. And I saw there was some communication over the radio, but I couldn't hear it. What happened then?
I'm not really sure. I want to take a look at it, but I think we were just racing really hard and trying to fight over the same piece of real estate there, and made a little contact. And luckily, we both kept it straight. And over voice chat, I just went up and apologized to him in case it was my fault. Like I said, I'm not really sure. I need to look at it, but yeah, just really glad we were able to keep it straight.
It almost looked like you tried to correct him a little bit in that process, and I'd be a liar if I said I hadn't done that once or twice myself.
It probably looked cooler than it was. I was just trying to keep the wheels under me. We ran side by side for what felt like an eternity. His side drafting each other, and he got a little bit ahead. And going into 3, I was going to try and side draft him back, and that's when that contact happened.
Yeah, so I really don't have anything else to say, man. I'm looking at the points here. You're still way back outside the top 16, but you're really starting to chip away at getting into this top 16. I know we talked about it a little bit, in our team chat earlier. We're talking about Nashville Super Speedway. How do you feel going into that track?
To be honest, I have no idea. I haven't bought it yet, so I need to try and buy it this week and find some time to run some laps. So I know it's a shorter track, right? I'm not very good at those, so we'll see.
If I remember correctly, it's 1.33 miles. So it's not exactly a short track, but it's also not quite as long as what we ran tonight.
Okay, well, we'll see. Yeah, don't know what to expect, so it'll be a surprise.
Well, hey man, we're looking forward to seeing you out there. Great win tonight. Congratulations to you.
Yeah, guys, thank you for doing the broadcast. You do an awesome job. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks,
Thank
Anna.
you, sir.
All right. How about we bring in our second place, Steve Gottschall?
I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, Steve, it's Josh and Carl in the booth. You got a copy?
Hello, Josh and Carl.
Hey, man, really good run for you tonight. Really solid run. Finished second. I wanted to ask you about one thing here because, we saw the leader, Josh Hanner, pull away by quite a bit, but the battle we kept watching on track was with you and Blake Gordon. How did you feel about that battle? I mean, obviously you beat him in the end.
It was an intense battle, and I gotta give a hat tip to Blake because he raced me real clean. Gave me a lot of respect, and when I got by him, he let me go. So it was a really intense and fun battle. You guys probably saw that I got a heck of a run on him in turn 3 and 4, and got by him coming off of 4, and then I totally screwed up 1 and 2. I spent that whole last run trying to figure out what he was doing in 1 and 2, and I screwed it up so bad he got by me again, and I spent the whole rest of the race trying to find some way to get faster than him in 1 and 2 because I knew if I didn't do that, I was not going to be able to hold him off if I passed him again.
So I have to ask, it really, and this was the conversation between me and Carl, what do you attribute being a little bit faster than Blake to? Because it almost seemed like Blake went a little bit harder earlier in the run. Were you just being a little more conservative to be faster at the end, or was it just being faster?
No, I was definitely taking it easier on my tires early in the run, and Blake definitely wore his out. I saw that on the second run as well.
Yeah, I think Blake kind of felt like his back was against the wall when Hanner started pulling away. But I want to talk about your season performance. We haven't really had an opportunity to talk to you much this season. But you're currently 5th in points. You've been having this really quiet season. You haven't had a win yet, but you've been just kind of quietly racking up top 5s and top 10s. How are you feeling about the rest of the season? Do you think you're going to be a contender for the championship?
I hope I will be. I feel a lot better about how the car felt tonight with this new build, so I hope that this is a good sign for how it is the rest of the way. I think I wrote you guys that the first 2 builds this season just didn't work for me very well, and I got frustrated. I was able to put fast laps down, but I couldn't figure out how to save tires and be fast to save my life. And then I was also having a lot of trouble at most of the tracks with the car being too loose coming off the turns. I remember at Atlanta, I felt so comfortable. I think I was sitting in second or third, and fairly early in the run, we came off of turn 2, and the car just came out from under me. And luckily I saved it, but I had to go down to the apron and went all the way back to 8th. And it just seemed like, I don't know, I just wasn't able to deal with the car the way it was.
So with this build getting changed, are you saying that we are going to get to talk to you a little more frequently?
I hope so, but I have absolutely no idea. If the rest of the cars, if the car drives like this at the rest of the tracks, then I feel pretty comfortable that I'll at least be competitive.
So we were talking to our winner, Josh Hanner, just earlier, and he mentioned that he hasn't even purchased next week's track, Nashville Super Speedway. Have you had an opportunity to run any laps on it yet?
I have not, and I have no idea what that track is going to be like.
Well, judging by what Hanner said, what you're saying now, I think we're going to have a bit of a wild card race next week.
Have a wild card next week?
Yeah, it sounds like it could be anybody's race based on the fact that nobody's been practicing yet. But that's exciting. I'll be calling up by myself. So.
Well, let's hope it's as competitive as tonight felt. I gotta apologize to Justin, although one of my teammates told me it was netcode. We did in one of the turns kind of sideswipe each other, and I felt responsible for that. I never felt us touch, but I got a 4X, so I'm sure he did too, and I felt bad about that. Other than that,
he was only in 5th, so I think you're absolved of any wrongdoing at that point.
I hope so.
Well, hey, great run tonight. We'll see what you guys can do next week, and see if we get an opportunity to talk to you again, Steve.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I hope so. It's great.
All right.
Glad I got to talk to you tonight. And I want to give a shout out to Steel Horse Racing, 21st Century Motorsports, Nerf, and a thank you to Joe Dinsmore for, I don't know if you guys noticed, I have a nice new paint scheme.
It looks very good.
We did.
And that may have made me more aggressive, Nerf wars. So.
Hey, paint schemes make a big difference. Every time I run a new paint scheme, I'm generally wanting to get it on camera. So I'm either going to do well or I'm going to do very poorly. And if I do poorly, I retire the paint scheme and don't run it again.
Yeah, I always wonder if, sponsors are happy, when they sponsor a back marker and the car wrecks and it gets a lot of camera time from that.
Yeah, I think it's as long as they're not like getting out of the car and like saying something awful. I think the sponsors are probably happy
or
with
slugging someone in the face, but
yeah.
Right.
Well, hey, thank you again, Steve. Good luck next week.
Thanks, guys, and thanks for your broadcast.
not a problem. Thanks for the great product on track.
All right. Well, that was Steve Gottschalk, and I was hoping the points would get updated, but it looks like we don't have points yet, so I think that'll do us for tonight.
Yeah, I think another great race. It may not have been the battle at the front, but we did get to see a lot of great action, especially early in the race and towards the tail end for second.
Yeah, I think it was a fun early on. I thought we were going to have this like week, super exciting, but I enjoy when there's, I don't need fun cautions during my races to have a good time.
No, this was a great race. Unfortunately, I have to miss next week because I'll be traveling down to your neck of the woods in the Carolinas, but I'll be watching.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to doing the broadcast without you because I think I'm a better broadcaster than you are. So you've been holding me back.
You know what? I won't argue it.
I think we'll probably have some pretty negative comments after me doing it by myself, but we'll see how it goes. And so that's going to do us tonight.
Make sure catch us for the IVRL on Tuesday, also at Nashville Super Speedway. Wednesday, God, I don't remember where we are, but Thursday we will be at Atlanta for the AOLL TNT series, and catch us for any of those races.
And we also got the podcast on Friday, and I was pulling up New Hampshire is where the truck series will be at. So Nick Adams will be thrilled.
He's going to have a great time if he runs.
But that's it for us. Thanks, everyone, for watching.
Yep, we will see you at some point in the next week.